Hello everybody, how you doing today? We're here today, back again, talking about the new CASO, the new reopening of the investigation into the death of Teresa Halbach. CASO 2.0, there's many names getting deemed as, but anyways, we're here talking about that again today. So, interesting thing here in this new investigation, and I guarantee you that this is not something they were hoping for. But there is a lot of examples here of people that don't trust the law enforcement there. They don't trust Calumet County and stuff, and it's obvious. Well, either they don't trust them or they fear them. There's like some fear, and you'll see that with Wilmer Siebert, I think. And I'm going to show you a couple things here. The other thing that's interesting about this concern and fear towards the law enforcement there in the area is it's not just in the Avery, Dassey, Taddock clans. It's not just with them, okay? Because that's what most people say. Oh, of course they, don't like the law enforcement, blah 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 blah. Because well, that's fine and dandy. I can see where your reasoning is there. But what about these people that aren't part of the Avery, Dassey family or Taddock family that are saying that they feel this way? See, that's the big question. So, one thing before we move into the documents here, folks, wanted to show you. It's been about 24 hours since I did the little duct tape lanyard. So far, it seems to be holding up pretty well. You can see kind of here, there's nothing yet really going too much awry. It's, the duct tape is still kind of fresh, so it's not really, getting nasty yet. But we'll see. We got a few more days, so. But wanted to show everybody that day one, 24 hours since I made that little duct tape lanyard. Okay, so now we're going to move into a report, from John Dietering in the new CASO, where we hear, where we see, what lengths William Siebert went to express that he did not want to talk to the investigators. It's, to my mind, extraordinary lengths, kind of. But here, let's go ahead and you can check it out. All right, this is an interesting report, folks. Now, if you remember, and I'll leave the link to the video below, there was Mr. Redant, when he was speaking to Investigator Dietering, he basically told Dietering that he felt like agents of the DOJ, back at the time of the original investigation, he felt that they wanted him to change his account of the fire that he saw at Stephen Avery's. And so, yeah, there's that interesting little fact. If you're, I didn't know that there would be, I didn't know that this was going to be a reoccurring theme, but it kind of is. Because look at this guy. This is about an anonymous voicemail that Dietering received. He ended up figuring out who it was, essentially. But, so, here we go. On Thursday, 10/19/17 at 1951 hours, I, John Dietering, received a voicemail message on my work cell phone. The message indicated that an anonymous mail caller was calling on behalf of Wilmer Siebert. The mail caller stated that he was calling to advise that Wilmer Siebert requested I no longer call his house phone or stop at his residence. This phone call came in as a restricted number. It should be noted, I attempted to contact Wilmer in person and by telephone on 10/11/17 and 10/12/17 in an effort to speak with him about an affidavit he had sworn to. Investigation continues. Okay, so what's interesting here is that this guy clearly knows that Investigator Dietering was trying to get a hold of him, and he does not want to deal with it. He does not want to talk to Investigator Dietering. He just, I mean, look at the extraordinary lengths. He had one of his friends call for him, and that friend called from a restricted phone number. I mean, I'm sensing a lot of fear here. I don't know. Anyway, so thought that was interesting, but that's not it. Now we're gonna go into Brian Dassey's, interview or questioning, and there's going to be again similar theme. So let's move to that. Okay, And this is when Dietering was questioning Brian Dassey. Now, take note at the beginning of this how very not into this Brian is. And he makes it very clear to Investigator Dietering. And I think it's interesting. And when we get further down, I'll explain why. Brian was initially reluctant to be interviewed concerning this matter and indicated he was not much of a witness and really had nothing to offer. Brian ultimately agreed to let us speak with him for approximately 10 minutes. Brian started out the interview by stating that he had never trusted law enforcement and was in fear of law enforcement, even while we were seated at his dining room table. Brian stated, while he had no criminal record, this was just something he could not get past. Brian stated he had a lot of exposure to dishonest law enforcement in the past. I questioned Brian regarding his affidavit, which is incorporated with this report. I asked Brian to review the affidavit to ensure it was accurate. Brian stated that he, in fact, had reviewed the affidavit before signing it. Brian stated the signing was done with a notary at Wells Fargo Bank in Two Rivers. I asked Brian if the individuals he talked with concerning the affidavit seemed pushy and overbearing to him. That's Zellner's investigators, folks. That's who he's referring to. He's asking Brian if Zellner's investigators were pushy and overbearing to him. Well, Brian said he indicated that they were not. I asked Brian if the individuals had attempted to put words in his mouth, and he indicated they had not. Now, I just got to say right here, John Dietering, oh my lord, buddy, you have an uncanny knack of reading the room, my friend. I mean, did you not understand Brian Dassey when he was sitting there telling you he had no trust for law enforcement? That even you sitting there in his dining room made him nervous, and you try to go and ask questions like that? Like, way to read the room, buddy. You're a real genius. Anyways, so he's obviously trying to get Brian to say that Zellner's investigators were pushy and overbearing. He didn't do it. Tried to get him to say that they put words in his mouth. He didn't do that. So I asked Brian about the statement of honor about 11-405, and he indicated that he meant he recalled Bobby telling him concerning Teresa Hallbach driving away from the Avery property sometime during the week of 10/31/05 through 11/6/05. All right, and here is one final thing that Brian Dassey says to Investigator Dietering and the accompanying officer that's with him. So here we go. I asked Brian if he had been at Stephen Avery's bonfire any time on 10/31/05, and he indicated no. I asked Brian if he recalled seeing smoke coming from behind Stephen's garage on 10/31/05, and he indicated he did not recall. I asked Brian if he recalled saying that Stephen seemed odd during the time they were in Crivets on 11/4/05 through 11/6/05. Brian indicated it was not unusual for Stephen to act odd, which he attributed to being incarcerated for something he had not done. Bravo, Brian Dassey. Bravo, sir. Bravo. Okay, so I think you see what I mean there. You see, number one, Mr. Wilmer Siebert, who obviously realized that Dietering was trying to contact him, and wanted nothing to do with it, and the way he's doing it, by asking a friend to call from a restricted number, like he is just wanting to stay as far away from it as possible. I mean, that strikes me as fear. I mean, whatever it is, he doesn't want to talk to the investigators, and judging by the reoccurring theme that I'm seeing throughout this investigation in terms of the investigators, it seems to me that they're going around and trying to browbeat people that gave an affidavit to Kathleen Zellner. They're trying to, as they say, they are trying to, bully or over, be overbearing. Exactly what they're trying to is assert that Zellner's investigators did. And what they're doing is proving that that's exactly what they're doing, because look at the way they're reacting. They don't, I mean, you look at Josh Radant's words, where he felt like the agents of the DOJ wanted him to change his story about the fire. You got now this guy, Mr. Siebert, who, I mean, appears to be so afraid that law enforcement wants to talk to him about his affidavit to Zellner, that he is scared and having his friend call from a restricted number to tell Dietering to please stop trying to, you know, get a hold of him. I mean, wow. And then you move into Brian Dassey's statement, where he just basically comes and lays it right out there, like, I have no trust for law enforcement. I don't want you here. Go away. You know, then he acquiesces and allows them to come in and talk to him, which I actually am glad he did. Because Brian Dassey, that means you allowed them in to come talk to you. That means they can now not try to, they can't try to spin it and say that they went to talk to you, but you wouldn't talk to them, and then try to spin that into how you aren't confident about what you said in your affidavit. So I'm actually glad you decided to let them in briefly and answer some of their questions. But I bet you were scared. I have no doubt that you were terrified of what these officers might do, because you've seen what they're capable of in the past. So that I fully understand. I appreciate your bravery, and I'm glad that you handled yourself in the way that you did. And oh, let me just say, that little bit you added about Stephen being in prison for a crime that he didn't commit, basically, that was inspired. That was absolutely inspired. And thank you for that. I would love to see the look on John Dietering's face when you said that to him. I really would. Anyway, so reoccurring theme in this investigation, folks, and I'm pretty darn sure that they did not want this to be the reoccurring theme coming out in this investigation. I'm sure that they are now looking at it going, oh boy, you know, now that this investigation has been exposed by Zellner, they're probably now going, oh boy, we really didn't want everybody to know we have Mike Halbach digging through all of his old computers. And, you know, I mean, just all these things that we see in this investigation. But, I mean, what is most shocking to me is this reoccurring theme of mistrust or fear of law enforcement in that area. So, that's about it for today, folks. I think most of you know which one's probably coming next. The next parts of the report, I believe, are going to be about Barb and Scott and all that. So, those of you who have been waiting for that, it's coming. It'll be probably within the next couple days. So, you know, look forward to that. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe, and we'll see you.